The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast ServiceNow series. Today I'm joined by Thomas Cohrs, who is the Managing Director from Servistio. Thanks for joining today.
Thanks for having me. Hi.
So let's start at the beginning. I'd love to hear a bit more about your career so far. What did you study? What industries have you worked in before? And what led you to working within ServiceNow leadership?
Yeah, thank you. It's been quite a ride. I studied engineering a while ago. Been in the IT market now for 25 years, always working in IT consulting, always in that terms of implementation of programs, CRM programs in the past. I did some programming in the old days and then testing and test management and business analysis and project management, what you do over the time. And with ServiceNow was quite interesting when Bill McDermott actually left SAP. At that point, I was asking myself, what company did he actually go to that I haven't heard of before? But if Bill McDermott is going there, that must be like a very interesting part to go. And that's when I actually thought about this would be a good area to have a deeper look into. I was working as a freelancer quite a while, and you know, as freelancers, you often have to work. We call them soul sellers. Sometimes it's agencies that you have to work through because the freelancers often cannot work directly at clients. And some of these, they really just take their cut, and they're not like the nicest parties to deal with. But some are really adding value, are really friendly, are really dealing with you as a human. And that was STI. I got to work with STI a long time ago, like 17 years ago, and got to know they are a real partner on eye level. They really have they value you as they value their partners, their customers, their employees. They also value as a freelancer. And that's how I got to more and more into talks with them. And they were like, hey, let's do something together. As a freelancer, no, sorry, not interested. I rather take my freedom. But then ServiceNow came into my mind with Bill McDermott moving to this new chapter. And I thought, why not build a ServiceNow unit at STI? And that's how it all started.
Yeah, well, thanks for giving us that background. And you're now in a slightly newer chapter within STI, but I'd love to hear a bit more about what that actually means. Who are Servistio, and what does your role there really entail? Yeah,
it's Servistio, our new company, a bit difficult to pronounce, or maybe also from the naming. So it's a play of Servizio, which is like the Italian word for service, as with ServiceNow, we are like specializing in customer and employee workflows, so customer service, employee service. So we thought playing with that service is quite logical, but we are still an STI company, so that's why the Servizio became the Servistio with the STI still in there. The cool thing with STI is on the market for about 25 years, and they belong to a group of companies. There is another main company, Iskander Business Partner. They are like a strategical consulting company, where STI is the IT consulting company. And with this holding that we have, kind of holding, there are about 500 people in these companies all together. There are a couple more companies that belong to this universe. We at Servistio, we specialize fully on ServiceNow, but we have all the capacity around us to get the specialists that we need for the business, for the specific needs that add the additional value to just being a ServiceNow company. So that is really cool, helping Servistio as a ServiceNow pure company, but in that context of our surrounding companies, we have dedicated customer service specialists, we have dedicated project management specialists, we have dedicated security, GRC data protection specialists. So we have all that knowledge that we need for good ServiceNow projects.
Yeah, so you're still part of that very well-established brand, but you've got the capacity to really specialise and focus on the ServiceNow part of that as well as the Servistio brand. So it's exciting, and I like the name. I really like the name. So what is it that Servistio really kind of specialise in? I know you've touched on it slightly, but tell us a bit more in depth about the kind of core modular focus.
Yeah, I think these days in ServiceNow, unless you don't have like a workforce of 1,000 employees, you have to kind of specialize and be like specific in order to be successful. And for us, for a longer time already, we have this customer and employee focus that we do. With customer, that's a bit broader. There is, of course, customer service management, but field service management as well. And more is now coming into sales and order management. Let's see, maybe at some point we call it CRM and not sales and order management anymore. But at the SCO in Vegas, like the sales kickoff that ServiceNow did this year, there was like this announcement of CRM now being a bigger and bigger part. And of course, having the CSM and the field service management, of course, it makes sense in many areas to also combine that with an asset management, with order management, with sales activities. So there is, of course, a natural setting the scene already to get this all together. Employee-wise, of course, this is mainly HRSD we are focusing in. And then, of course, we are a boutique hotel, kind of. So there is like companies that are more like the big hotel chains, and they have like their argument, but we are like the boutique delivery. So we really focus and specialize in our area. And as we said before, with our surrounding companies, we have that dedicated subject matter experts that really give us the full picture of not only being good in ServiceNow, but every ServiceNow project can only be as good as you understand the business, as you understand the processes, as you understand the surroundings, and especially in this business areas, which like customer and employee are more related to like the IT areas, ITSM, ITOM, etc. It's of great value having this expertise.
Definitely. And I like the analogy of it being like a boutique hotel, because you go to a boutique hotel for, you know, that kind of personal, more exclusive type experience as well, which you're providing for your customers at Servistio. So have you got a particular case study that really showcases the type of work that you're providing for your customers at the moment?
Yeah, I can give like two examples in the customer area, maybe an example in the HR area. So there's one example in the transport and logistics industry. If you think about transport and logistics, there is a lot of stakeholders that play a role in their business. They have probably a customer that wants to deliver something. So there is the customer producing something or something to be picked up. But then there's mostly a distribution company even in between that is doing like the driving from A to B. There is warehouses where you have to in between store the stuff and like shift it from one area to another. There is truck drivers that are like part. And then of course there's always at some point where you have to deliver, which is not necessarily your customer, but still you have to deliver it to that place. And there's a lot that can go wrong there. And that's a typical area where ServiceNow with the customer service management and field service management can really support the processes, which are maybe, if you want to deliver it, they are not accepting it for whatever reason. It's damaged, it was not ordered, they wanted to deliver too much or not enough or whatever. And then once the truck driver is saying there, sorry, I can't deliver it, or they don't want to accept it, what do they do with it? Do they drive it back to the warehouse? Do they drive it back to where it came from? Do they have to repackage it? So there are like so many different options that they're doing. And that is like hundreds and hundreds times a day that this is happening. Really good use case for ServiceNow. We are using the app. So if you're outside a truck or warehouse, you can use the app from ServiceNow. And if you're in customer service, you can work with ServiceNow on all these topics. Another example is in the real estate industry. If you are one of these bigger companies owning hundreds or even thousands of apartments that you rent out, as a tenant, you always have reoccurring topics that you want to address to these companies. There is something broken in your bathroom that you need to be fixed or to repaired. You need a copy of like some document for like the TV or for the electrical company or whatever, or for tax reasons. If you are moving in and you are like visiting places, there are a lot of documents that you need to provide and that need to be checked. If you're moving out, there is like a lot of like renovation and checking the apartment and the deposit that you paid and the deposit that you might want to get back. So all this is like a full life cycle of the tenant's life, but these companies have that thousands and thousands of times and that every single day. So ServiceNow is really supporting there in customer service, giving the full life cycle with all these repetitive tasks up to like really having the plumber to get to the apartment, to make an appointment, to fix it with like field service management, enablements and all that. So the full life cycle of doing the customer service to your tenants and also the full field service of delivering that. Nice example of these repetitive tasks that can be easily automated with a platform like ServiceNow. In the HR area, very interesting one that we are having is in the area of document management. Enterprise document management is one of these topics that ServiceNow is not specifically focusing on. So what ServiceNow is usually offering in terms of HR-related services is giving everything to the employee that is not core HR topic, but as a service that you can provide. So typically that would be like self-care, that would be like questions, documents that you need, reach out to any department that you typically ask HR for, but then HR has to address legal or IT or facility management or whatever they need. So typically ServiceNow is supporting there. And with enterprise document management, especially if it's bigger companies, you need a lot of documents to be generated from your contracts to all different kinds of letters that you have to provide in an employee's life. And we are with ServiceNow automating these. They are like generated automatically, even in bulks that if you have to like onboard or offboard people, there are like many documents that you have to get done. And there is like, again, if you have thousands of employees, there is like many of these requests every day, and ServiceNow is highly automating on this end. So very exciting areas to work with.
Definitely. And what I love about those examples is it showcases the kind of physical impact that these digital solutions provide. They're making people, services improve in a physical capacity. The overview and the work that you're doing at Servistio is showing the impact and making people's daily lives easier for your customers. How do you plan to scale the business at Servistio?
There is a couple things that we are like targeting at and that maybe are also like helpful in our situation, being this boutique account. So there's one thing in ServiceNow, they speak about general business, which is actually everything which we would call in Germany like the mid-sized companies.
Yep.
And this is like, of course, typically what we aim for, as like the very, very large enterprises. They're typically in the need of a lot of resources, bigger projects, and then there are competitors of us that just have more workforce to do these super huge projects. So while we focus on that mid-sized companies, there are mid-sized companies that are rather smaller. ServiceNow calls them mid-market, so they have like mid-market up to 2,000 employees, and then general business with some more. And on these smaller enterprises or smaller companies, they need the same digitalization and the same software as a service, platform as a service that ServiceNow is offering, but they are not often in the position of providing as much power or as much money or as much resources as like a company with 5,000 to 10,000 employees could do. So this mid-market needs like standardized approach. They really need like quick timelines, a good value of good scope within a good budget. And this is an area where we could grow really nicely. We have, for example, a HRSD packaged offer, and we are one of a few in the market, as far as I know, in general, like Europe-wide, that have this kind of package where we say this is a piece of functionality in like an SML package that we could deliver for this pricing. So as a customer, I get this for this money, and this is like a good start, a good base. Of course, the bigger the companies get, the more they want like, I would like to have this little extra and this little extra, and then that always costs a lot of money. But having these standardized offers really, really helps. Then, of course, there is like the specialization that we have. We already saved quite some projects that were like in an unfavored state before we took over, because there are again and again bigger companies that are good, for example, in ITSM or ITOM, and then they are asked to do customer service or HR service, and they can't say no. Although they are not specialized, they don't understand the business, they don't have a clue of these business processes, and then the project is like in a not that favorable state, and they get offboarded, and then somebody needs to take over. And then we often already prove that we are the ones that do understand and that got the project back on track. I know one project that we took over in a really miserable state. It was like absolutely horror. There's quite a lot of invest to really get it back on track and clean the data. We had to re-migrate data which were wrong migrated. We had to set up the system quite new. So it was like a lot of work. And at some point, ServiceNow came in with regular reviews that are doing of the instance. So they're offering that as part of the license agreement. And they're doing this health check about like how healthy is your environment. And the solution consultant from ServiceNow coming to that customer said, like, in all my career that I've been with ServiceNow, I have never seen a customer with such a high health score.
Wow.
So that was like really great for us, like taking over it when it had like the worst health score that you could think of, that we could like turn this around. So this is a good basis for growing because there is like trust and there is like good results that we are providing and that we can continue on that one. And so I guess that this ServiceNow know-how, industry experience, business process know-how, that gives us a good head start for more businesses, and then together with this mid-market and general business approach, I think it's a good basis for further growth.
Definitely. And it comes back to that analogy of the kind of boutique hotel and what you go to a boutique hotel for, and it's having that personalized, very niche a very specific service level that you're providing for the guests that are coming to work with you. So it's a beautiful example of hard work and dedication really paying off. Are there any kind of particular trends that you're noticing within the customer and employee workflow area at the moment that you're either excited about or, wary of, or working with your customers specifically to overcome?
Of course, there are trends, and there is like that AI trend everybody is talking about, and of course, like AI agents, they are a revolution. It's like whereas Gen AI before was in a business context, often not offering the value that also like the costs were associated with. Now with the AI agents, that is really a game changer. But then also many companies, they don't even have a proper customer service system. They don't even have a proper email integration. They don't even have a proper contact center that is like joined with that customer service solution. So before you talk about all this fancy new stuff, you have to get the basics and like have to get like a good fundament of your data, have to get like at least the standard processes in a system like ServiceNow. So the trend, of course, is to more and more automation that ServiceNow already often offered, but now with AI agents even more. But then on the other side, you need to still provide the quality, and you still need to provide a good customer experience. So there is like, some people think like with more and more automation, you can calculate the best business case and you don't need any people anymore and lay off your whole customer service stuff. I think it's more get these repetitive tasks done by the machine and have time for the real tasks that really need human interaction and that you need to make a positive impact to your customers and to the people you're dealing with. Same with an employee experience. These days, there are a lot of industries where you need to keep your good people or to hire good people. And you really need to provide a service to them. You really need to be a good employer with a good employee service in order to hold your talents and keep your talents. And again, like there is a lot of repetitive tasks that an HR department is typically working with. So get these off the shoulders of the people so that they can really interact human to human for the topics that are really important and that they need this. Just needing a copy of your contract for some tax reason or whatever, you don't need to make this human by human. You can just have a direct a check in the employee portal and just download it, and you don't need to talk to anybody. But if you have some personal, private, health, career, whatever needs to talk to humans to, then take that time for a good experience. So yes, the trend is automation, but you have to understand automation not in a way of replacing each and everything, but getting the repetitive, easy tasks off your shoulders and then being able to have more time for the more complex work to deal with.
Definitely. It's such a good point. And with any team, working alongside people that are doing repetitive tasks, it can be boring. So why not get that automated and then allow people to flourish in the things that they're good at and, use their people skills to make services as personal as possible. Well, Thomas, it's been really, really great to have you as a guest on today's podcast. I think you've brought a lot of great information to the episode, and I'm very excited to see what Servistio is going to be doing over the next year and beyond. So thank you so much for joining.
Thanks a lot for having me, and have a great time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.